The market buzzed like a restless beehive under the blazing African sun. Tin roofs shimmered, mango flies danced over crates of oranges, and the air tasted like dust and roasted maize. Alex wiped sweat from his brow and counted change for a customer, his fingers moving quickly but his mind already tired. The day had barely begun. "Keep the change." The customer smiled, waving off the few coins left on the wooden counter. Alex returned the gesture with a polite nod. He turned to restock a shelf of phone chargers when a familiar voice cut through the noise behind him. "You're kind, Alex, but don't let your kindness blind you." Alex turned, already grinning. "Uncle Joseph, you sneak up on people like a cat." The older man laughed a rough, sandpaper sound and stepped into the shop's shade. His white shirt was damp with sweat, but his eyes, always sharp, flicked around the shop as if searching for cracks in the walls. "I don't sneak, I watch," he said, leaning on the counter. "There's a difference. You're watching me now. I'm watching the world work on you," Uncle Joseph replied, glancing at the frayed corners of the wooden stall, the dusty floor, and the wear on Alex's hands. "You're kind, too kind. That worries me." Alex chuckled. "Helping people doesn't hurt anyone. It's a good thing. It's love." "It can hurt," Joseph said, voice dropping. "Some hands that beg are not clean. Some eyes that cry hide curses. Some mouths that whisper, 'Bless you,' spit poison." Alex rolled his eyes. "You sound like one of those radio prophets." "Laugh all you want," his uncle said, pushing away from the counter. "Just don't say I never warned you." Alex watched him disappear into the crowd, shaking his head. That afternoon, the heat sat on his shoulders like a wet blanket. As he closed shop for a short break, he noticed her Dot, an old woman, sat near the junction beneath a jacaranda tree. Her back curved like a question mark, wrapped in a worn-out scarf that hid her face. Her hand was stretched forward, barely moving. Her other hand rested on an old enamel bowl, chipped and stained. Her voice was barely a breath. "My son, help me." Alex stopped. There was something fragile in her voice, not the practiced tone of career beggars, but something older, almost hollow. He stepped closer, digging into his wallet. "God bless you, Mama," he said, dropping a folded note into the bowl. She didn't look up, but her lips parted in a smile, thin, small. "Your kindness will be remembered." Alex nodded and walked on. That night, the dreams came. He was in a narrow room made of cracked mud walls. A single flame flickered in the corner, but it didn't give warmth. Clay pots lined the shelves, dozens of them each, labeled with names, written in red ink. The air smelled of smoke and sorrow. A figure sat cross-legged in the center of the room, whispering to herself in a language Alex couldn't place. Her head was covered. Her hands moved slowly, deliberately, pouring black water from a calabash into one of the pots. He stepped closer. The liquid oozed like oil, thick and wrong. He squinted at the name on the pot, Alex. The woman looked up. Her eyes were not eyes. They were holes filled with shadow. She smiled, but it was a smile that made his spine itch. Alex gasped and woke up, drenched in sweat. The next morning, things went wrong. A business deal he had been working on for months was cancelled without explanation. His supplier stopped responding to messages. His shop's electricity died by midday. The electrician said it would take days. Still, Alex pushed forward. "Just bad luck," he told himself. Then the bicycle broke down. In the sweltering heat, he pushed it home, legs burning, arms sore. When he reached his apartment, his landlord stood waiting. "Alex," he said, folding his arms, "your rent is doubling next month." "What?" Alex stared, stunned. "But the house needs repairs." The landlord shrugged. "Can't do them on this income. If I can't pay, you move out." That evening he sat in darkness, heart pounding. He replayed the last few days in his mind. The dream, the woman, the silence that followed her blessing, his uncle's warning. But it wasn't until midnight that something shifted. A sound, faint, wet, like someone crying. He sat up in bed, listening. The sound came again, closer. He switched on the light. Nothing, no one, but the feeling in his chest. Same weight from the dream was back. He whispered to the silence, "God, what is happening to me?" His uncle's words echoed again in his skull like thunder. "Not every hand that begs is clean." The following day, customers walked past his shop without stopping. A friend who helped him clean never showed up. His supplier messaged back, finally just one line, "We're cutting you off. Too many delays." By late afternoon, Alex was unraveling. He walked back to the market junction. The old woman was there, unmoved. Same position, same scarf, same bold dot as you walked past. Her voice returned, softer, yet somehow sharper. "My son, help me." He froze, but didn't turn. He kept walking faster. Something about her tone had changed. It wasn't a plea this time. It was a statement, a claim. Back at the shop, his neighbor Chi was waiting. Chi looked pale, thinner than usual. "Alex," he said, looking around. "Can we talk?" They sat outside on the wooden bench. Chi whispered, "Ever since I gave money to that old woman at the junction, my life has been falling apart." Alex's stomach tightened. "You too?" Chi nodded slowly. "My car broke down 3 times. My business, customers vanished. Even my girlfriend left. Man, I thought I was cursed. I had a dream," Alex said quietly. She was pouring something into a pot. It had my name. Kai's eyes widened. "The same dream, I swear." They sat in silence, 2 men haunted by kindness, and then a third voice joined them. "Florence." Her eyes were red. "You're talking about her, aren't you?" They both nodded. She sat slowly, like someone whose soul had aged. "I've been helping her for months," she said, "and now I can't pay school fees. My shop got robbed twice. My husband says I brought a curse into the house." Tears ran down her cheeks. "I lost everything." The sun dipped behind the rooftops. The market buzz began to fade into evening stillness. She broke the silence. "So what now? We keep suffering in silence." Alex looked up. "No," he said, voice steady. "We face her." Florence flinched. "Face her? What if she's dangerous?" "She already is," Alex replied, "and we have nothing left to lose." They agreed to go at sunset, when the market would be nearly empty. Alex's heart pounded through the rest of the day like a war drum. His hands trembled as he locked his shop. His mind echoed with her words, "Your kindness will be remembered." The sun dipped lower, turning the market golden and soft. Shadows stretched long across the dusty ground, and the once busy stalls fell silent one by one. Alex waited by the old mango tree near the junction, the same place where she sat, the same place everything began. She arrived first, face drawn, shoulders tense. Florence came minutes later, lips pressed into a tight line. They said nothing at first, just stood, like statues bracing for a storm. Alex finally spoke. "If we do this, there's no turning back." Florence looked at him. "We've already passed the point of no return." They moved together, crossing the thinning crowd until they saw her. The old woman was in her usual place, cross-legged, scarf covering her face, hands resting on her lap. Her enamel bowl sat in front of her, empty and waiting. She didn't look up as they approached. Only when they stopped, a few feet away, did she raise her chin. "My children," she said softly, "do you have something for me today?" Her voice was gentle, but something beneath it felt wrong, like it belonged to someone much younger, or much older. Alex stepped forward. His heart raced. "We didn't come to give," he said. "We came to ask." She tilted her head, pretending confusion. "Ask? What can an old woman answer?" Florence's voice cracked. "Why is our lives falling apart? Why do we all have the same dream? Why are we cursed?" The woman's smile faded, and for a heartbeat, the mask slipped. Her lips tightened. Her eyes, still mostly hidden, glimmered, not with age but with power. She looked down into her empty bowl, her fingers twitching slightly. "I don't know what you're talking about," she whispered. "I'm just an old woman trying to survive." "No," she snapped. "Stop pretending. We know. You're not just a beggar. You've taken something from us." Her back straightened, and then, for the briefest second, her entire face changed. Gone was the soft, pitiful expression. In its place, sharpness, clarity, coldness. She smiled again, but this smile wasn't sad. It was triumphant. "You gave freely," she said, "and now you come to take back your gift." The words sent a chill through the air. Alex's stomach dropped. He looked at Chi and Florence. Their faces were pale, stiff with fear. "We didn't know," Florence whispered. "We didn't mean to give you our peace, our lives." The old woman raised her eyes slowly, and this time they saw her clearly. Not watery or cloudy with age, her eyes were black, sharp, alert, like polished obsidian, alive. "You gave me your money," she said, her voice deeper now. "I didn't force you." Chi stepped back. "That's not how you sounded before." "What are you doing with what we gave you?" Alex asked. The old woman turned her face toward him. "What you give with your hands, I take with your heart." The words didn't make sense. but they felt dangerous. She leaned forward slightly and whispered something none of them understood, 3 short, guttural syllables in a language that didn't belong to this world. Then, suddenly, her hand slammed onto the bowl. Clang. The sound echoed too loud for such a small object. The bowl didn't even move, but the air shifted. Her scarf fell slightly from her forehead, revealing a faint, scorched mark like an old burn, shaped like a twisted spiral. It pulsed faintly, glowing like dying embers. Her voice dropped to a whisper so soft, they had to lean in. If my children abandon me, why should yours prosper? They froze. The voice didn't sound like hers anymore. It was as if something was speaking through her, not around her, through her. Alex looked around. The market was nearly empty. Even the breeze had stilled. Florence's voice trembled. What do you mean? Your children left you? The old woman's body became still, naturally still. I had 3 sons, she said. I fed them with the crumbs of my life, sent them to school with torn wrappers and empty pockets. I gave them everything I never had. She looked up again, face torn between grief and fury. They left, promised to return, promised to care for me. Years passed, no letters, no visits, nothing. She whispered, so you punish strangers? She stared at him. If my own blood forgot me, what hope do I have in strangers? Your coins were doors. You opened them. I walked through. Florence stepped back, eyes wide with disbelief. We were trying to help. Help, the old woman laughed. It was a bitter, low sound. You helped me die slower. You helped with pity, not with love. Alex's heart pounded so loud he could hear it in his ears. You took our lives, he said, for what your sons did. The woman's hands tightened round the edge of the bowl. The burnt mark on her forehead pulsed once more. I take what was denied to me, she whispered. No one spoke. The air around them felt too heavy, too still. Then the wind returned. Suddenly, a hot gust that kicked up dust and tore through the silence. The old woman's scarf lifted slightly and then dropped again, hiding her face once more. She leaned back against the wall. I have told you what I can, she said. Now go. Florence wiped tears from her cheeks. Kai's fists were clenched. Alex felt his body shaking. He wanted to scream, to cry, to run. Instead, he just turned. They all did, and they walked away. Later that night, they met again, this time in Florence's home. The small living room was quiet, except for the ticking of a wall clock. Florence poured them tea with hands that wouldn't stop trembling. We were never prepared for this, she said. She stared at the cup in front of him. She's not just a bitter old woman. There's something inside her, something feeding. Alex nodded, and we fed it. They sat in silence, the weight of the truth slowly closing in. Florence finally spoke. So what do we do now? We break it, Alex said. Whatever she started, whatever this thing is, it has to end. She looked up how. Alex stared into the flickering candle on the table. We find someone who knows how. Florence's house had never felt so cold. The candlelight flickered softly across their faces, painting shadows on the wall that moved like ghosts. None of them touched the tea. It sat between them on the table, forgotten and cold. Alex leaned forward, elbows on his knees, hands pressed together. I keep going over it in my mind, he said. The dreams, the market, her words, the way her face changed, that thing in her voice. Florence spoke next. It's not just bad luck, is it? No, she said. It's something else, something alive. Alex swallowed. She called it a door. Said we opened it, with our coins. Florence clenched her fists. We didn't know. But maybe that's the problem, Alex said quietly. Maybe kindness without understanding opens the wrong doors. Silence. And then she asked the question that had been looming in the air since they left the market. What if we're cursed? The next day, Alex didn't open the shop. He walked out, not to clear his head, but to return. He needed to see her again. Alone. The market was full, buzzing with noise. But as he reached the junction, it all seemed to fade into background murmur. Time slowed. She was there as always. Same scarf, same bowl, same position. But this time, as he approached, she raised her head first. Before he could say a word, she smiled. Not cruelly, not kindly, just knowingly. I knew you would come back, she said. Alex didn't answer right away. He stared at her face, trying to see beyond it to the thing beneath. Her eyes were less cloudy now. They shimmered faintly in the sunlight. I need to understand, he said. Please, tell me what this is. She tilted her head. Do you ask to help? or to take back what you regret giving. I didn't regret helping you, Alex said, but I regret what came with it. The old woman sighed. Her voice dropped low. Most people give with their hands. You gave with your soul. And when you left, you took nothing back. Alex felt something in his chest twist. I don't understand. She motioned to the ground beside her. Sit. He hesitated. Then did. She spoke slowly. I once had 3 sons, she began. They were my world, my reason. I gave everything to raise them. Sold my wrappers to send them to school. Carried firewood on my back until my spine bent. I prayed, fasted, begged God to bless them. She looked at her empty bowl. They were blessed. Oh yes, they grew, traveled, became men. But men forget. They forget the hands that shaped them. Her fingers traced the rim of the bowl as if it held memories. They stopped coming. At first, they sent money, then silence. I waited. I prayed harder. And then, I stopped praying. Alex watched her. Her voice hadn't cracked. Her eyes didn't tear. But the pain was thick in the air, dense enough to choke on. And then, he asked softly. She looked at him, and for the first time, her eyes burned not with anger, but with grief. I died, not in body, but something inside me broke. She gestured around the market with a bitter laugh. So I sat. I stretched my hand, and I watched. I watched faces pass, faces that looked like my sons, my daughters. None of them knew me, none of them cared, but they dropped their pity like crumbs. Alex lowered his head. Then why punish us? She smiled faintly. Because pity is not love. Pity feeds the body but curses the soul. He looked up. But how? What did we do to deserve? You gave, she interrupted, but not to me. You gave to the image of suffering. You saw weakness and dropped a coin, but you never looked. You never truly saw me. Alex blinked. And suddenly, he did. He saw her hands scarred and rough, her back curved unnaturally, her face partially visible now, marked by years, yes, but also something older, something darker. There were symbols, faint but burned into her skin beneath the scarf. Her body was no longer just old, it was inhabited. You're not just a woman, he said slowly. You're something else now. I became what they made me, she whispered. What the world made me. A hollow space, a vessel. I don't curse, I collect. Alex stood, heart pounding. What you took, we need it back. She looked up at him, eyes gleaming. Then find someone who can reach where you cannot. That evening, he returned to Florence and Chi. She's not just angry, he told them. She's hollow, like something else moved in. Florence sat back, arms crossed tightly. A spirit? No, Alex said. Not exactly. A wound so deep it grew claws. Chi stood. We need help. Real help. Florence nodded. There's a man, a pastor, in the next town. My cousin went through something similar. He helped her. Spiritual. Alex asked. Very. Alex didn't hesitate. Then we go. Tomorrow. Night came heavy that day. Alex tried to sleep, but dreams clawed at him again. This time he was inside his shop, but everything was reversed. The shelves were empty. The walls cracked. Shadows moved where the light should be. The door creaked open behind him, but no one entered. He turned and saw the bowl dot sitting in the middle of the floor. Inside it, a single coin, his coin. It began to spin faster and faster until it hovered. The air grew thick. Then he heard her voice. My son, you gave it freely. He woke, gasping, heart racing. Outside, dogs barked at nothing. He lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. They needed deliverance, not explanations. The road to the next town was dusty, long, and silent. Florence drove while Chi kept checking his phone, though he had no signal. Alex stared out the window, watching trees blur by. Each bump in the road made his heart jump. Florence spoke at last. He prays every night. The pastor says he dreams things before they happen. She raised an eyebrow. Dreams again. Why? Is it always dreams? Alex didn't answer, because dreams were where this had started, and dreams, it seemed, were how the darkness spoke. The church was small, built of rough brick and painted white. A wooden cross stood tall above the door. There were no loudspeakers, no banner, no noise, only stillness. The pastor was already outside, waiting. He was tall, with silver in his beard and calm in his eyes. You came late, he said gently, as if he already knew them. Florence stepped forward. You remember my cousin, right? The pastor nodded. I remember pain, not faces. He ushered them into a quiet room behind the sanctuary. There was a table with candles, a Bible, and a clay basin of water. "Sit," he said. They obeyed. Alex explained everything, from the first coin to the curse. The pastor listened without interruption. When Alex finished, there was silence. Then slowly, the pastor stood. "What you gave was physical," he said, "but what you took was spiritual." He dipped his fingers in the water and traced a small cross in the air. "She became a wound so deep it swallowed others. And which of you fed that wound without knowing?" Alex asked, "So what do we do?" "You must close the door," the pastor said, "and ask for what was taken, not from her but from what watches through her." She shuddered. "You mean, yes, it listens, it waits, but it also fears the name you carry." Alex frowned. "What name?" The pastor looked at him, eyes sharp. "The one she tried to erase." They stayed in silence for a long time after. When the pastor left the room, Florence finally whispered, "I'm scared." She reached for her hand. "Me too." Alex looked around the small church, the cracked tiles, the burning candles. He wasn't afraid. Not anymore. He was angry. This wasn't just about them. It was about everyone who gave without care, who gave their kindness away like loose change, never knowing what it could unlock. Tomorrow, they would pray, but tonight, they prepared. The night before the prayer, Alex didn't dream, not of the pots, not of the bowl, not even of her. He slept like a stone, deep and dreamless, as if his body knew a storm was coming and was saving every ounce of strength. In the morning, Florence knocked softly at his door. She wore a long, dark dress and no makeup. She waited outside, unusually quiet. No jokes, no nervous pacing. They left at sunrise, driving back to the quiet church on the hill, the one with no sign. No choir, just a wooden cross and a man who saw through silence. The pastor was already at the door. "I've been preparing," he said, gesturing for them to enter. "It's time." The prayer room was dimly lit. Candles flickered on a low table beside a large, worn Bible. The scent of anointing oil hung thick in the air, earthy sharp and strangely calming. 3 wooden stools were placed in a half circle. "Sit," the pastor said. Alex sat first. She and Florence followed, each glancing around as if expecting something to rise out of the walls. The pastor remained, standing. "What we face today is not a spirit of flesh," he began, "but one born of soul. A wound that became a mouth. A cry so deep it changed form." Florence swallowed hard. She rubbed his palms together nervously. Alex stared at the flame in front of him. The pastor continued, "When you gave your money, you gave more than coins. You gave energy, intention, but it was not clean. You pitied, hand pity, without love, opens doors you do not see." Alex frowned. "I thought pity came from caring." "No," the pastor said firmly. "Pity can come from pride, from fear, from guilt. But love, love, requires truth and sacrifice." He placed the oil beside the Bible. "This is not about punishing you. It's about closing the wound." He knelt before Florence first. She tensed. The pastor anointed her forehead with oil and whispered a prayer under his breath, his voice growing with strength as he prayed. Florence's breathing grew heavy. Her lips trembled. "She sees my daughter," she murmured. "She's holding her picture." Alex's head snapped toward her. She leaned forward. "Who's she?" Alex asked. Florence's eyes were closed. Her hands gripped the sides of the stool. "She says I gave her everything but love. That I gave money to strangers while my child cried for me." The pastor pressed his hand to her shoulder. "That is not her voice. That is your fear speaking." Florence's lips parted. In a gasp, "I didn't know," she whispered. "I didn't know." Then, as suddenly as it started, she slumped forward, breathing fast, but calm. The pastor turned to Chi. "Ready?" he asked. Chi tried to smile. "Failed, as I'll ever be." The oil touched his forehead, and the prayer began again. This time the room felt colder. Kai's hands trembled. His eyes shut tight. "She's behind the wheel," he said, voice shaking. "I see her, in the back seat." Florence looked up. "Who?" "My girlfriend," she whispered. "She's leaving again, like before. She says I care about everyone else, but not her." He began to cry, not loud, but helplessly, like a child who just realized something too late. "She's gone. She's really gone." "No," the pastor said. "She left the space you abandoned. You gave kindness to others, but withheld intimacy. You traded presence for performance. Chi exhaled a long guttural breath and bent forward, hands on his knees. Alex watched them both, shaken. Then the pastor turned to him. You don't carry guilt, he said. You carry pride. Alex blinked. What? You helped to feel useful. You gave because it confirmed your goodness. But inside, you feared weakness. You saw her as someone beneath you. Alex looked away. The pastor touched his head. The prayer began, and the fire inside him rose. At first he felt nothing, then heat, something crawling beneath his skin. Not physical, not pain, just presence. She's in my shop, he said slowly, moving things, replacing my goods with clay pots, empty ones. The pastor prayed louder. She says I left the door open, Alex continued. She says I called her in. Close the door, Alex, the pastor said, voice strong. Call your soul back. Alex's eyes flew open. The candlelight flared bright, then dim, and just like that, it was done. The room fell quiet again, but it wasn't the same. It was peaceful. Real peace. Not silence, not emptiness, but calm. Clean. They didn't say much afterward. They sat quietly, sipping water, breathing deeply. Florence smiled faintly for the first time in days. Chi leaned back in his chair, eyes closed. Alex stood, stretched his arms, and looked around. The air felt different. He turned to the pastor. How do we know it's over? The man smiled. You'll know. They drove back to town under a soft orange sky. That evening, Alex unlocked the door to his shop and hesitated. What would he find? But inside nothing was broken. In fact, something was fixed. The lights flickered on. The refrigerator hummed to life. On the counter sat a new box of chargers, delivered that morning by a courier he didn't remember calling. His phone buzzed. A message from the supplier. Apologies for the delay. Ready to resume deliveries. Alex let out a slow breath, then smiled. Chi called him later that night. Bro, my car started this morning. No stalling, no sputtering, just smooth. He laughed. Really laughed. Florence sent a voice note. Her voice cracked with joy. My husband just got a call from an old friend. Said he wants to help with my daughter's school. Alex, it's like the air in my house is different, lighter. Alex walked outside, phone in hand, and looked up at the stars. He hadn't seen them in days, maybe longer. He whispered, thank you. 2 days passed, then a week, and life, slowly, steadily returned. The shop grew busy again. Customers returned like nothing had happened. Florence reopened her stall. Chi started talking about launching a second business. But the old woman's spot, empty. Her mat remained, but the ball was gone. The scarf too. Alex asked around. Some said she left, some said she died, others claimed she was never there in the first place. One fruit vendor frowned. She never moved, never ate, just sat, every single day, then gone, like smoke. Florence looked uneasy. Maybe she felt it, that we broke free. Alex didn't answer. He just stared at the empty mat and nodded. The mat was still there. The old faded cloth lay flat against the concrete like it had been ironed into the ground by time. But the bowl was gone. The scarf, too, and the woman. No one had seen her. She vanished. The fish seller told Alex. One day she was here. Next, nothing. Another vendor added. Maybe she died. Maybe someone took her. Florence asked around. So did Chi, but the answers circled like dust devils, pointless, vague, always shifting. One old man at the edge of the market simply said, some spirits don't leave with a sound. They just stop being needed. Alex stood at the junction, in the fading light, hands in his pockets. He felt ... unsure, relieved. Yes, but not victorious. What had happened was too strange for victory, too human for horror, too spiritual for logic. He knelt beside the mat, touched the fabric gently, and whispered, I forgive you. Not because he had to, but because he could. Days passed, then weeks. Kai's business took off. Florence's daughter received a scholarship that stunned the entire school district. Her shop, once abandoned, was now lively again, always surrounded by customers. Alex's own shop found balance, not wildly successful, not empty. Just ... peaceful. He started closing earlier, started noticing the color of the sky again, the smell of ripe mangoes, the laughter of children in the alley. And one evening, as the wind cooled the day's heat, he sat in front of his shop with his uncle, peeling oranges. The scent of citrus clung to the air. You look different, Uncle Joseph, said Dot. Alex smiled. I feel different. I warned you. You did. Alex nodded. And I laughed. Thought you were just being superstitious. Uncle Joseph didn't gloat. He chewed slowly, then looked out over the quiet road. People think kindness is always pure, but sometimes it's a disguise. Alex leaned back against the wooden bench. A disguise for what? For guilt, for fear, for needing to feel like a savior. The old man said, kindness that comes too fast is like a tree without roots. Looks tall, but it falls with the first wind. Alex didn't respond right away. He just let the truth settle in. His uncle continued, more softly, not every hand that begs is clean, Alex. But not everyone is dirty either. That's the burden of wisdom. Alex began to change how he helped people. He stopped tossing coins out of habit. He started asking names, started listening to stories. Some just wanted food. Some needed someone to speak their name out loud. Some were lost, not just in the streets, but in themselves. And some ... Some reminded him of her, but he didn't walk away. Not anymore. He stood, looked them in the eye, and chose carefully. One afternoon, as the rain clouds gathered in the east, he saw a boy sitting alone by the roadside, thin, dusty, tired. Alex walked past at first, then stopped. He turned. The boy didn't notice. He crouched down beside him. What's your name? Alex asked. The boy looked up, startled. His eyes were wide and cautious. Daniel, he said softly. Where's your family? My mama died last year. I live with my grandma. When did you last eat? Daniel looked down at the ground. I don't remember. Alex reached into his bag and pulled out a small loaf of bread, then a bottle of water. Start with this, he said, placing them gently in the boy's hands. But I want to meet your grandmother. The boy looked at him, unsure. Why? Because help shouldn't end with hunger, Alex said, and kindness should come with intention. The boy nodded slowly. Alex handed him a note with his name and address. Bring her to the shop. We'll talk. That night, Alex sat alone, outside, watching the stars. They blinked softly above him. Calm and ancient. He thought of the old woman, the way her pain had devoured her, the way they'd all fallen into the trap of giving with their hands, but not with their hearts. He thought of the market, the stories hiding in plain sight, the invisible threads between pity and pride. And then he thought of Daniel, of starting again with wisdom. He still heard her voice sometimes, faint, not haunting, just echoing, my son, help me. But now, another voice always followed, stronger, double quotes, help with your eyes open. Months later, Alex would look back on that season as a turning point, not just in fortune but in vision. He still gave, he still cared, but now, he gave with weight, with presence, with soul, because kindness, he'd learned, is power. But without wisdom, it becomes weakness, and power, used carelessly, always leaves scars, even when it means well. If you made it to the end, comment the word awakened, subscribe to the channel, and share this video with friends and family.